I'm here today with Paul White, the CEO of the Broncos. Paul, thanks for agreeing to be part of the TROOCOO Know Who series.
It's good to be here, Scott.
Obviously, it's your 9th year now. It's been an amazing career to date. Has it been everything that you hoped for since you joined the Broncos?
I guess when you start a role like this, you sort of don't know what the future holds. Like I had a background in rugby league. I was a police officer for 17 years, and had a number of corporate jobs in the mining industry. And this was something completely different from what I've done. But my previous experience, I suppose, gave me a good foundation for the role I was about to undertake. But the job of a CEO in the sporting industry is just so diverse because you don't know from one day to the next. A bit like being a police officer, to be honest. There's always, in some industries, there's a degree of stability in terms of what you do from a day to day. And sporting industry is the same. The Broncos is the same in many respects. But the unknowns are always ever apparent. Serious injury to players, off-field incidents, issues generally in the game that can have an impact on our club. So it's in those times that you're most challenged. But you can't foresee them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Obviously the team's training with a couple of weeks away from the season. Performance standards in any organisation are critical. As a new coach, I'm sure, he's coming with certain performance standards. As a CEO, how do you set the performance standards across the organisation? Yeah,
we're a bit different from a lot of sporting organisations. We actually invested a lot of time when I started in the role. One of the things I learned from the mining industry in particular was, I guess, continual improvement or business improvement. So that's a bit of what was good enough yesterday is not going to be good enough today. So they're constantly turning up the dial in terms of what's required next. To do that, you actually have to set parameters, and you do have to have a performance management system. People have got to understand what their work expects of them, what results. So you can't ask people to work to a standard or to achieve results unless you, as the leader, articulate that. So we do have, set KPIs across all areas, and we do performance manage. We don't use a rating system. I suppose we did initially, but I've shied away from that because a rich performance review, if you haven't achieved what you need to achieve, your manager should know that, and that's important. So I've learned over time that a rating tends to distract the conversation. What I look is the content and the richness of the review on someone. So if I'm looking at someone's performance, I want to see why they're a high performer or why they're not. And I look for equal amounts of both. No one has a perfect year. So if someone espouses that they've done nothing wrong over the 12 months, that's a bit of a red flag for me, because what opportunities do they have for self or professional improvement? So we do run a robust performance management system, which is linked to performance bonuses. Development's extremely important for me, but not development for development's sake, like not just attending a course because you're doing something now and you want to do something next. Our job is not to set people up for a job outside the Broncos, but that if we're doing our job, people naturally will go on to bigger and better things, and I accept that. But development needs to be how it improves them as a professional and as a person in the job they're doing for us right at this time. So some of that is going and looking at others. We're certainly big on benchmarking and having a look at other clubs, both here in Australia and overseas, and being a bit innovative with how people, wish to be developed. So I'm not in charge of people's development plan, nor their managers. That's up to the individual to drive their development plan. I think too many employees come to work thinking that the organisation needs to develop them. People have to own that. They've got to own that, because if they own it, it's meaningful. They can have meaningful discussions, and then the organisation's richer for those honest conversations about, what's needed. And I'm sort of proud about the development opportunities we've been able to provide our people.
Leadership is about the challenges you face. You'll have had quite a few challenges, you say, while you've been here. From a people leadership perspective, what's probably the biggest challenge that you have faced?
Oh, look, it would be People know the most publicised ones, and they tend to believe that they're, the biggest challenge. And yes, they come with a great deal of public scrutiny around decision making and the way things are reported in the media. The toughest times are the issues that really impact on the people who work for the organisation, if that makes sense. Some of those, challenging times are very serious injuries to players when you're forced to, really reach out to families, the players, everyone who's impacted by some of those decisions. Making tough calls to let people go. It's no different in my role than it is in anyone else's role. If you really care about people, you do need to lead and manage strong. I work on the notion people need to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So what that implies is I don't want people to be stressed, but I want them to be a little bit agitated when they come to work in the morning.
Yeah.
I want them to be thinking what they did yesterday is not good enough today, and I hold myself to that same standard. You don't always reach it as well, and that's the other thing about leadership is don't set yourself up for failure by espousing that you're perfect in every sense.
Yeah.
I'll make a mistake every day, I'll learn something every day. Some of the greatest challenges that you face are the biggest learning experiences, both personally and professionally.
Yeah. And I've known you for a while. I mean, you're very authentic. You've got great integrity, and I think you're really open and honest in your approach. From a values perspective, you touched on that. Then, how important to you is it being a values-led organisation?
Yeah, I'll put it this way. For me personally, I understand in my role as a CEO that our values, and those that are written on the walls within this building, I have to walk, I've got to act consistently with what they are. If I espouse them and stand up in front of people and be interviewed in the public domain and talk about values, people have got to see it within me. When you find yourself in a leadership role, you've got this sort of notion of what a CEO should look like or what a senior executive manager should look like. And we're all very different. You're different to me, I'm different to someone else. So you've sort of got to find what centres you, and you've got to lead that way. And I think people, naturally you go through your career and you're more aligned with some leaders than others, but I think people accept authentic leadership or genuine leadership without trying to be something you're not. So I don't try and set myself up for failure. I don't hold up that I've got the rule book for leadership or management, but I do try and learn. I do try and be honest, and I know what centres me as well, and I know, at its most basic, I want to achieve great results in my work. I want this business to grow, but I also want to demonstrate a real care for the organisation, the people within it, which is really important to me.
While we touch on that, what would you say, sat here today, has been your greatest achievement in your career today?
I don't know whether I've had it yet. When you think about that, I've had the opportunity to reflect because I get to do a little bit of this, and I enjoy actually speaking to groups. But I guess my time as a police officer is the times that all my greatest career achievements have happened because of the fact they've hugely impacted people's lives, whether that's the life of a young man that, might have had no hope of ever, achieving an education, and now, that young man's running his own business and he's a qualified tradesman, or, whether it's sort of managing a community at a time where there's been huge tragedy within a community. I look back on some of those things. I have the chance to sort of speak about those and reflect. I think they're really important. I mean, to me, legacy, and people talk about legacy, so there's an implication, what's your greatest moment? For me, it's a little bit selfish to even reflect on that, because what I achieve as a CEO is because of what those people do out there. Not, I can be a strong leader and I can create an environment, or hopefully assist in creating an environment. I can't do that on my own. I've got great people working for me. So, I always give credit to those people. I don't like, that personal reflection and or legacy. Well, when you think about legacy, is it a building? No, it's not. we've talked about that community program of my expectations. If I leave, someone grows it to 100 employees, you know.
It's the foundation.
Yeah, but the real results, I guess, the true legacy of a CEO or leader who's done his job happens 5 years after they've gone.
Yeah.
You know, because what I've done here, hopefully over 9 years, is to give the organisation a stepping stone. And we're ASX listed, and they talk about the average term of a CEO in an ASX listed company is 3 years, 3 to 5. I'm not too sure whether you can actually achieve, you know, some sort of foundation legacy for the future in such a short period of time, because everyone wants change quickly, but real sustainable change, I think, happens over a long, and there's a degree of patience with that. So I guess I've been fortunate to work with and lead some great people. This organisation is no different. So I can't really give you a single. I can't really. I can't really give you. And I guess if you ask me that question in 10 years' time, I'll probably still have the same answer, if that makes sense. Because I've just had such a blessed, you know, life and also career that, you know, I'm just thankful for it all. And I try not to. You start remembering the tries you scored as a player. You know, you start to lose touch with reality. And the things that I would have thought were amazing 10 years ago might not appear as amazing to someone today.
And we said, Paul, at the start, I mean, you know, you've been here 9 years now, so the learning experience that you would have had over that period is just unbelievable. As a business, you know, we work with a lot of aspiring executives and certainly people that aspire to be a CEO. What would be your little bit of advice around people that are moving into their first CEO role, or, you know, into a high profile CEO role like yours?
Yeah. The first response, when I saw that question, I thought, be careful what you wish for. The first bit of advice, which I truly believe, is make sure you're ready. Because there's people with enough potential and ability to fill all the criteria for a CEO role. But the intangibles between all those words and KPIs and everything that's written is the scars that you've had along the way, the successes, the failures. That's all part of the journey. And I often say to some of those young people who want to be the CEO tomorrow, make sure you're ready to be there when you get there, because we see it all the time where some brilliant young executives, high potential, great leadership capability, have found themselves in those roles a bit too early. Once you get there, where are you going from there? Like, honestly, where do you go once you get there? So once you put your head up into that echelon, it can be a lonely place. Make sure you're ready.
Obviously, you know, I couldn't leave here today without talking about your own personal journey as well. You know, you're a dad of 4 daughters, you know, obviously married, and you've been through your, you know, personal journey with what you had to face with your illness. Tell us a little bit about, you know, how that gave you a sense of perspective and the resilience that you had to show on that journey. I mean, I did a leadership course with a company last year, and I was given that opportunity, and we had to identify a champagne moment in our life. And I actually identified my battle with brain cancer, which people sort of looked at me like I had 2 heads. But when you think about it, when I think about that time in my life, you know, it was, for a start, it was enormously confronting. I wasn't frightened because the event that alluded me to the fact I had was a seizure, so I thought I was dying. And of course, when I woke up, I wasn't dead. I just had a physical reaction. I wet my pants. You know, and there's worse things than that. So I guess I was sort of, I remember that whole experience, and I was sort of, once I realised I couldn't control whatever was happening to me, I was at peace, if that makes sense. So I know it seems like a weird thing. And then I thought, I'm alive. So I just sort of thought, I always wanted to make the most of my life, because my times as a police officer, I'd seen life taken away from people like that. So I always had that sense of purpose in my life, but I guess it grew. So I just
took on the challenge of the treatment and just tried to reframe all that. Control what I could control. Like, I'd always been fairly big with my health and training, and that was important. My youngest daughter was going through high school, so I wanted to actually, even though at times I didn't feel terrific, I wanted to show my daughters that I wasn't lying on the couch, although sometimes I wanted to. So it gave me, perspective in terms of trying to help others through my own journey, and that helped me in the end. I'm a better person for that time in my life, to be honest. I'm a better leader. I'm more balanced in my outlook on what I should be stressed about and what not to be stressed about. And that certainly helps me in this job, because people say, oh, how do you do it? How do you cope with the stress? Well, a brain cancer diagnosis is probably is a balancing sort of reference point for that, if that makes sense, mate.
Well, listen, I just want to say, and on behalf of the team at TROOCOO, I really appreciate your time today. You're a great bloke. I think you do a fantastic job. I certainly look forward to the next 10 years. And no doubt this season will go well. I think you've set all the foundations up for a great season ahead. The club's in great shape, and well done to you and your amazing leadership, Paul. So thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.